What's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Joined today with me is me on my own. I'm a Gemini, so maybe I'm not by myself, but it's me today, guys. I'm doing a solo episode, and it's a very special solo episode because it's the 1 year anniversary of the Black Mental Health Podcast. Wow, man, so much has like transpired throughout the last year. So during this episode, I'm gonna be talking about some of the ups and downs. Not so much favorite moments, but more so moments that had significant impact. So you might hear like tragic stories or stuff like that. Those of you who are following, just recapping everything from the past year because most things fizzle out after a year, and it actually was this podcast that started the trajectory of all the things that I had was able to get accomplished this year, or this past year. So I'm so excited to even share information about this episode because who knows, I've started a lot of things in the past and um a lot of them fizzled out. But once I tapped into this mental health realm of things and found my lane and found my niche of like things that I want to talk about for the rest of my life and really get into like mental health as a passion and as a purpose, I really found my spot. And this was probably the longest thing that I ever stuck with out of all of the things that I started. So I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the things that um I was able to accomplish. I'm just proud overall of this platform in general because I'm doing it for free. I just want you guys to know that every time I put out an episode, I lose money. I don't gain money. And I'm starting to see traction over time. But I'm happy to do it. Because like I said, this platform has always been about sharing therapeutic stories, never been about a replacement. So I get therapy by being on this platform. I get tips, I get tricks, I get all my knowledge. Just having different guests on here, I'm very grateful for the people that wanted to be a part of this journey with me. But let's get into the past year and what's transpired over the year. So I actually went back and watched the first episode, which was 000. The intro episode, and you just see I guess for me myself, because probably everybody couldn't tell because I'm very outspoken, but you just see the nervousness, the even now, like I'm not reading off of a like a notes card, but I do have notes, but I'm just honestly speaking from the heart. And back then I was literally trying to read like word for word off of um the notes board, and it just wasn't right. Um the podcast actually almost didn't come out, for most of you who don't know. Around the same time as where my newest baby born into the family, Zaking was born, and he was born July 15th, and I'm sorry, he was born June 15th, and the podcast was supposed to come out in June. Um, and instead it came out in July because I wanted to make sure that we got in a proper functional environment for my family with the transition of the baby coming and my fiance having to stay up all night, and I wanted to make sure I was there to help out and be supportive. So the podcast was supposed to come out in June, so it wound up coming out in July. But I had recorded it, if I'm not mistaken, that episode in June for it to come out in June, but it just sat for the longest because of what I just told you guys. And I was nervous. I was nervous about putting it out. I was nervous stepping into this realm because I didn't have a psychology background. I didn't have a therapy license, to clinical, all of that stuff that people need to have that credibility to talk about mental health. And then at the further I got into it or just started doing research, I realized what my place was within this realm of mental health. And it's more of, I don't know how many of you guys follow sports, but um, they have two type of commentators. They have the Stephen A. Smith, which um, fun fact, that's where I got the whole idea for Reginald A. Howard, was because I used to watch a lot of Stephen A. Smith, who's played sports, but he's not done it professionally to the highest level like NBA or NFL or anything like that. Um, and then you have players. Um, because you have Stephen A. Stephen A. studies the game. He watches. He played a little, but so he has a perspective. And then you have actual players who played the game, like a Shannon Sharp, um, like a I'm trying to think who are the other commentators, but there are commentators who are players who actually Jalen Rose. They played the actual sport, and they can speak from that perspective. So you have the people who study, just like therapists, clinic. I can't even say the word this morning. It's early in the morning, guys. So sorry if I'm misstep, and that's why my eyes are a little low too. But you have the players, and then you have people who study the game. And just because I didn't go and get the degree to study doesn't mean I don't have experience within the field. I'm speaking from the perspective of being on the field, as the players would say. They got their degree in the actual experience. That's what they did. So for me, my perspective and viewpoint of mental health comes from my experience and not just necessarily going to school and getting the technical terms. But I also don't that doesn't also mean that I'm not going to get certified to be a certified peer specialist, or I haven't taken a first aid course, or if I haven't taken a youth mental health first aid training, or a adult mental health. And I'm planning to take all these trainings and things that will help contribute to the experience that I already have. And I'm again, that's why I end each podcast the same way. Like, this platform will never be about replacing. You can't replace people who study. It's just almost like scientists and God. Like, you can't. Some things are unexplainable. They're just experienced, and then there's some things that are scientifical and logical based. And I think there's a room for both on this platform as well. But I'll get more into that part of it later. But um again, this platform almost didn't come out because of my kid, and then I was nervous. And then, even if you guys go back and listen to the first episode, for a while I had this uh this like hip hop, like Afrocentric beat on in the beginning and at the end, connected to the horns that you hear in the beginning and the end. And I don't know where I was going, because I made that up out of nowhere. That was me just playing around with GarageBand and trying to figure out the feel that I want for the podcast. So that's a fun fact as well, that it just had like this funky beat to it. And I wound up taking it off because it just didn't make sense. Um, what else? I'm trying to make sure I cover all my bases. I got it chronicalized so that way you guys can like travel with me through the journey. My first few episodes were with friends. And two of them was from my college roommates, and one of them was a young lady who has been very supportive of the everything that I've been doing from the very beginning. So once I said I wanted guests, she reached out as well. Shout out to Chantel. But the other two gentlemen was my college roommates, because nobody knew what I was trying to do. And they didn't understand what kind of shoot. Let me rephrase that. I didn't even know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to do something. I knew I wanted to make impact change within the community and start some platform or something that can contribute to the mentally healing of things and issues in our communities. But I didn't know what it was going to turn out to. Or I thought I had an idea, which is some elements are still there, but as it transpired, it started to transition into different things or to a different thing over time. But I'm happy where it's at now. But just going backtrack, the first two guys that you see is my college roommates, Rich and Bro, and I'm so happy that they were trusting enough with me to share their story, because I don't know who I would have got on. I could only talk but so much, and I never wanted this platform to be just about me, because I can't share every perspective in the Black culture, in the Black community. I'm not a woman. I'm not a gay individual. I'm not a child. Like, it's just so many different, older, elderly person. Like, I don't know a lot of perspectives, so I can't uh, speak on certain topics. But I'm happy that my friends trusted me enough with their stories to, um, start messing around with this mental health stuff because as serious as it is, um, a lot of the early on stuff I'm not let's say I don't want to say I'm not proud of, but I kind of wish I knew more before I started it. Because even with the episode with my friend Jabril, when he said some people could confuse hopelessness with depression, a year later, I know hopelessness leads to depression, and it's not a and or what is it? A versus each other. It's an and ors. And says ors where that when you feel hopelessness, it leads into depression. So that just summarized that my lack of knowledge because I was stepping into unfamiliar territory. And then I'm by no means just I know everything about mental health, but I know way more than I did last year starting out into this field. And I'm happy to be able to share the information that I'm receiving along the way because I do take it serious. I do make sure I put the time into, understand the history behind all of this stuff because as I'm growing, the more I'm learning, it's not just a black issue, it's a global issue, which will contribute to the other platforms that I will create in the near future. But just early on I had to make I just look back and study the game film of what I came from, and it was like, whoa, Reg, you should have, that was right there, that's a moment right there that you grow and learn from because that's information that you don't want to misprovide to the people.
This portion of the podcast is brought to you by the Worthy Lifestyle app. Are you looking for mental health support, education, and resources? Are you lacking self esteem to elevate? Are you looking for a way to handle the childhood trauma you're not talking about? Are you sad, angry, or just all over the place emotionally? If so, download the Worthy Lifestyle app. The Worthy Lifestyle app provides mental health education, resources, and support. Learn how to become the best version of yourself. Before you can win, you have to believe you're worthy. Download the Worthy Lifestyle app and tell them Brad sent you. I had a chance to meet the creator and the owner and the operator, and she's an amazing person. We actually are in the talks of doing big things together, especially for the mental health community. So I'm in so full support of what she's doing with this app, and I highly recommend it because it's an amazing tool for people that say therapy and all of these things are expensive and they don't know where to start. So the Worthy Lifestyle app is definitely a place to give you that start, and it might be the place that you call home for a while. So go download the app and tell them Brad sent you. This portion of the podcast is also brought to you by Pocket Rehab. Do you have a friend or family member that's struggling with an addiction or mental illness? Do you struggle with an addiction that you can't just seem to quit? Have you ever been diagnosed with a mental illness and don't know where to start to get any information? If any of this sounds like you or someone you know, it can sometimes feel like you're all alone. With the Pocket Rehab app, you don't have to feel alone anymore. You're never alone. Join a community of members who are going through exactly what you are. It's a completely free service that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pocket Rehab is a safe environment that's judgment free. Download Pocket Rehab today from the iOS App Store and Google Play. Make sure y'all leave a review. I actually talked to the creator of the Pocket Rehab app. Had a nice conversation, and we're trying to find ways to incorporate Pocket Rehab in other ways as well. So you guys will be seeing something together soon. But I'm full support of this app, man, because I always trying to find resources, especially within our community. Just to help support anybody with different difficulties as far as like that they don't feel like showing. So I'm definitely in full support of Pocket Rehab. Download it today, and y'all actually might see me in there moving around. And I would say tell them Red sent you, but I'll be there. So I'll see you when you come.
um and then after a while I started in this manner because well, not in this manner, let me look again, not explaining myself. So I was doing in-person interviews for a while, and then I started. I realized that I couldn't get every story. Based in Philadelphia. For those of you who are new listeners, I'm based in Philadelphia, and um, I I would just travel to people's homes and just interview them and it used to take so much time and effort to edit, to um, sit down with people, to schedule meetings, to just do all of this work with settling down. And I don't mind it because, like I said, I love what I do. And when you love what you do, everything doesn't feel like work. But it took a lot of work. It took a lot of energy. So I started doing the virtual meetings as well, so that way I can get a lot more interviews and conversations recorded within a time frame. Mind you, I got family. I had to work. Like I still was doing other things in the meanwhile. And mind you, I was still working on my book as the podcast was debuting. So and catching steam. So I would have other obligations, and I couldn't be in that many paces at once. So I played around with this platform where I'm able to record virtually and in person. And now I went fully virtual because of the accident, which we'll speak more about later. Um, and then in the midst of all this as well, you guys see me start. You see the beginning, middle, I don't want to say end, but you get to see the transitional stories from me and my father, and what we've been through, and how we have conversations and stuff like that. I don't think I talked about him as much as I do now. But we're in a good place. He's working on his book. I'm helping him out with that and helping him share his story as well. So we're in a good place at this current moment. But you guys get to see the transitions between like me just not knowing who he was, and the conversations and consistency, me unpacking emotions, feelings, and other things like that, and which had a big impact on the platform being created in the first place, because it was a way of reaching out and talking to other young men who feel the same way that I feel, or was going through the same things I went through. So you guys were watching the story unfold, or still unfolding, because he will be on a platform. I thought I was going to have him. I was looking back at the last episode, or the first episode, and I know I said I wanted to get my son on here, and I wanted to get my dad on here and other family members, but we have something special in particular planned for them, and I wanted to make sure I do it right, because family, it hits closer to home than me sharing other people's stories. So me getting family on, I got to make sure that I treated with respect, because they are family. And after these cameras go off, after these are recorded, I have to deal with these situations one on one. Same thing with what was in my book. If most of you and God is suffering to success, out now on Amazon, and I can send out the signed copy to you guys. But I had to be careful with me and my mom's story, because she's in there a lot, but that's still your mom at the end of the day. And I wanted to make sure I was careful there. So I'm still gonna get everybody's on the platform as I promised, but it'll be in a different way, a different format, and you guys will still get those stories. Um, and then as I started figuring out other stories and getting other people on the platform, I know one of the biggest things and transitions for me was tackling going into the LGBTQ community, because that was unfamiliar territory basically, and um, I was being educated, actually because I was coming from a platform or a perspective that one that I'm ashamed to admit because of my environment, but it was like I really didn't like anybody that was gay. I didn't like any part of them. I didn't, you know, I really didn't, just like their lifestyle. And um, so once I started interviewing, it was a big step for me to start interviewing people from that community and my brothers from that community, because um, I don't know, a lot of you know about the Caribbean. I'm Antigua, first of all. Like I'm a first generation American. My mom is from Antigua, for those of you who don't know. And all I heard growing up was gay people are the devil, or kill gay people, or burn gay people, or just really like homophobia being rampant within um the community. And especially being a black man, we don't mess with um gay people in a certain type of way, and you must be gay if you mess with certain type of people. So um me setting out on a journey to start helping people and healing and all of that stuff, I was like, I can't uh, isolate these set of individuals because of their choices in life, because that's the same way about somebody isolating me because I'm not born, my family's not born in America, and it's like, oh, go back to your country. Or um me being a man with dreads and they don't give me a certain jobs and they isolate me because of my choices. So it's like you're being a contradiction if you don't try to at least understand. Even if you don't agree, you can try to understand the lifestyle and come to a not mutual ground, because everybody has their decisions and choices and you don't have to accept or deny. But I don't want to just throw away my brothers because of choices that I don't agree with. But before I got to that point, I wanted to come to a place of understanding and making sure that I literally like tried to get into the mindset, and not for any particular reason, but to be understanding, and just un- understand the mind frame and things like that. So that was a big transition for me, and it still is a transition. Not as much, because honestly, to keep it all the way 100 from you, some of my biggest support when I was going through some of my darkest times during this past year has been from people within the LGBTQ community. Shout out Nick, from Typed Out. Shout out D'Angelo. He was on this platform. They just reached out constantly, especially during my accident, and they were reaching out and just checking on me and making sure I was okay, and just just trying to be there for me. And at the end of the day, that's all you want from people, is to know that they care about you. Nobody wants to feel alone. So I will always have respect for people within the LGBTQ community, because I think because they go through so much as far as not being understood and not being respected, that they come from a place of understanding and treating people with respect. So again, that was a big transition for me on this platform. You guys got to watch it partake with different episodes on here. One of the other problems or transitions that was bad for me, that I still have to this day, but I don't mention it, I don't say nothing to nobody, I just move on to the next episode. But it was having guests on, and I won't call out anybody particular, who didn't post their episode basically. And so I would invite guests on. They would share their story, um, and then when it was time to post the story on their platform and share with their audience or stuff like that, or get individuals to watch, they never shared. And to me, that felt like almost like thievery. Whereas um, they were just trying to siphon off whatever audience I had for their own personal gain, and that mentally was giving me anxiety, and worrying about who I wanted to bring on now, and making sure that it built up a little anger, and I just didn't feel like I almost didn't want to do the podcast anymore, because I'm like, I'm bringing individual on to share their story, but they're not helping me push the purpose on to other people, and which I don't think is fair. But also, I came to the conclusion that this platform has never been about trying to get people to share to their audience. It was literally giving a voice for the voiceless, giving different perspectives, giving different viewpoints, so that way people could feel comfortable and feel not alone. And so um, I don't. After a while, I came to peace with that decision, and I'm more selective with who I invite on now, because of the fact that I don't want. It's a mutual thing now. Like they get the story out. It's a exchange of value now. They get the story out as well, but now the individuals that I bring on, they're willing to share to their audience. They're willing to do it. And to keep it honest with you guys, it's a mental trick that I gave to myself, so I don't seem anger or I don't feel depressed or stuff like that. Anytime I feel like hate in my blood, any remorse or anything like that, I show love, because like they say, it's as cliche and corny as it sounds, only light can drown out darkness, only peace and love can drown out hate. and all of that bitterness. So, or whatever resentment or things that they had going on for why they didn't post. Because I literally asked as well. Um, but so if you hear advertisements and me shouting out people, they were some same people that didn't post my stuff or post the episode. Um, that I bet if it was on a bigger stage or whatever the case may be, they would have posted it. But because of where it's at or where it was, they didn't want to post it, which I respect and I understand. I know how the game goes, so I didn't get mad, but I still show love to those individuals by using advertisement to give them support and stuff like that. Because I'm not a vindictive. I don't have hate in my heart. I don't have revenge in my heart. I don't have that stuff in my heart. Y'all can keep it, and y'all gonna have to remember that when y'all come back around. But let me get off of that because it's gonna go in a dark place that I don't want to go because it's already getting me a little riled up.
This portion of the podcast is brought to you by My Violin Weighs a Ton. My Violin Weighs a Ton is the realization of a unique vision that hip hop artist and mental health advocate Archie Green crafted and is bringing to life in order to engage, educate, and inspire a new generation. Archie also understands the power of music and how it can be used to overcome obstacles, deal with painful experiences, and even help individuals cope with mental illness. The students participating in this project are a part of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, which according to a 2017 CDC study are leading the nation in suicide rates. Wow. 2 in every 10 high schoolers having attempted suicide in 2015. That is big. Wow. In January 2019, Archie and his mental health advocacy group, Pilgrim Layers Back, was granted the opportunity to bring My Violin Weighs a Ton to life. For the 4-month-long performance project, Archie and Pilgrim Layers Back have partnered with Lexington Bell Community Center, which is an urban youth educational center located in the historic Cleveland neighborhood of Ho. I hope I pronounced that right. To support, head over to the GoFundMe.com/MVWAT 2019. The link will be in the description of this podcast, and make sure to let them know you heard them first on the Black Mental Health Podcast. This portion of the podcast is brought to you by Diversoc Co. Diversoc offers the most unique and stylish products on the market. They provide products that are bold, adventurous, and express confidence. Their products are meant to draw attention and stand out from the norm. They are creative socks for those who aspire to stand out. They are a combination of comfort and expression for the modern individual. Diversoc Co. is a trend-setting accessory line retailer offering unique designs that can be worn on any occasion. Whether you're dressing for a boardroom or the boardwalk, they have a design for you. The founder is actually my college roommate, Jabril Hart. I can vouch that you're getting quality products and excellent service from just spending time with him and knowing the type of guy he is. He was also on episode 3 of the Black Mental Health Podcast, so go check that out to hear more of his story and what he has going on. For more information about Jabril Hart or Diverse.co, check out Diverse.co, DeversSocks.com. Sorry, it was so many co, sock, whatever, but check them out, and I can vouch for them. Tell them Red sent you.
Um, Now speaking of getting riled up, um, there was a moment, and let me make sure I go get it, so I don't have to try to remember. But there was a moment where within my mental health journey that I ruffled a little feathers within um the mental health community with some of my friends and people that I know. They just didn't like this tweet that I put up, and it more so came from the people, like I said in the beginning, with the clinical backgrounds and the people that went to school and studied and stuff like that. Um, so what started off was I put out a tweet that said, "Be careful of these mental health quote unquote experts. Remember, they have a job in medicine. They don't get paid if you get healed." And that tweet is still up, or that post is still up on my Instagram. You follow me at Reginald A. And it wasn't to come from malintentions. It actually came from a place. If you listen to the episode that I had with Will, and I'm trying to find it. So give me a second. Um, I had an episode with Will. Hold on one second. Well, basically, I'll tell you guys. I had an episode with Will, and here we go. Episode 17 was with William Bates, and we talked about it. So you can guys can go into detail with that episode and explain more about that. But that caused some real ruffling. But I'm so happy that it happened because I know I didn't mean malintentions by what it said. Like people just pick what parts made them feel some type of way, which they're entitled to. So I was open to have dialogue and conversation about the tweet itself. But it created the concept for my "We All Help Heal" shirt, which I'm very proud of because it was so much divide between the advocates or the people in the mental health community like myself who don't have a clinical background, who don't have um, a degree or those things that those people with the credentials have, but they have experience. So it was such a divide between the two that I decided to come up with a shirt called the "We All Help Heal" shirt, and a concept. And I put guide, therapists, advocates, coaches, everything. It was just a bunch of different people who contribute to healing, and said we all help heal, not just one individual, not just um, one particular segment. We all have some contribution to healing. And what matters, what doesn't matter is the way people get help. It's as long as they get help. And again, like I said, I don't have hate in my heart. So you will never see Reg going against it and out of character. If you do if you would have seen it, it probably would have been when I was 2021. At this age, I'm uh 6 months out of surgery. I got 2 kids, a fiance. I don't have time to even hate. I don't have like purpose to hate. So I wanted to create a concept that brought peace and brought love and happiness. So um I was happy for the dialogue within the community, but I wanted to create a concept that makes sure it capulates. I hope I use that word right. Capulates um the mind frame of where I was coming from when I made that tweet, and know that I didn't mean offense when people saw it. Um, Now, it was also around this time that I started getting into speaking and talking about mental health, which was a battle within itself because again, I still didn't feel like I had the credentials to start speaking about mental health. So it really like made me feel like I needed to go do some things. But I was starting to get speaking opportunities and starting to go to schools and talking about mental health and talking to kids about it. And my brand started to pick up the perspective that I was putting out there. People were starting to appreciate. So um I was speaking, and as well the book was coming out. So I was juggling all three things while juggling the family life while still working. So I was writing my book on top of going to work, on top of coming home to the family, on top of making sure I'm just covering all my bases um with everything that I was doing. So it was a real stressful period, but again, I was happy for it. Anytime you guys see that I'm not producing episodes, it's usually because one, I'm still trying to build my brand. So I don't have a team as elite. So it's still me just doing a lot of the work and heavy lifting, which eventually will stop. I'm getting to a place where I'm starting to get a team and people in place to like start helping me get some of this stuff out. And then um I'm playing with the ring light. But I'm starting to get a team in place for getting those things out. But anytime you see I go dark with like not putting out episodes, it's always because I'm producing something up. I try not to have it happen so often, but it's always because I'm trying to produce new content or produce a new way of doing stuff. And then like I said, the book was coming out. The podcast will always be. Let me make sure I make that clear. The podcast will always be my place of home, my place where I will come back to. It's my pulpit, my platform. If those of you that know ET, that's his TGIM. That's the same thing for me. Like the podcast will always be my place to just share stories, to share thoughts, and just get my message out there. And it's for free, and I always try to put it out there as much as possible. But again, it was stressful juggling all these different roles. So um, I had to try to figure it out, but I'm happy that the book was able to come out. So I took a break from the podcast for a while, but like I said, I will always come back and show love and make sure that you guys are getting the content in these stories as much as I can be as a one man band. Um, Now going into the process of the book, it really had a lot of emotional effect on me. If you guys, I talked about that um in an episode a while back because it almost didn't come out because there was I'm trying to find the episode. It's episode 20, and I had to get over my book writing PTSD because someone stole money from me. So I had to hurry up and come up with the money. It's just so many different aspects that went into that. So I encourage you guys to go in and check that out because that was a good episode. But it was so stressful and making that process of the book. But I was happy that it came out because that's also been my baby. And it's cemented the fact that I was leaving a legacy. It cemented that people will remember why I was here because my book was published. It's out and it's available. So go get it. um, Now to the climax of everything. And we're about to wrap up soon, guys. Um, to the climax of everything was my accident. My car accident, which I believe is episode 21, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yes, the car accident was episode 21, and that was the peak of me. I was in a real vulnerable position of what do you do now, Reg? Do you continue with everything you've been doing? You just put your book out. You just started speaking. You just the podcast is being receptive, or do you stop? And it was at that point I realized that God, whatever people believe in, I believe in God, energy. Do you get a chance to show people everything that you've been preaching on this platform, everything that you've been trying to put out there to the people, you get a chance to show people exactly what you're talking about. Like because I could have been depressed, I could have had all of these things go wrong, even suicide thoughts, of not wanting to be here because I'm no longer the same person I was before the accident. And it was at that point I was able to know that this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now I give validation to the story. Now people can truly understand what I mean when I say um, I am Reginald A. Howard, the mental health advocate. Like I understand those dark places. I understand them dark moments. I understand everything, not everything, a lot of the things people go through. And now I can really be a voice of change, a voice of reason, a voice of mental health, um, and make an impact because now people could get to visually watch my journey from, the beginning to the middle, all the way to the end, wherever that may be. People get to watch that journey, and I feel like it's going to be a beautiful story when it all plays out. And I'm so happy to have you guys along the journey, along the way, because without the people that listen, the people that show love, the people that support and share, this platform doesn't exist. I still, again, I'm doing it for free. I'm losing money every time I edit, put it out there, post, whatever the case may be, taking time away from my family to do this right now. Um, it literally is something that I would do for free. I would have been in the caves talking back in the day before technology, to just talking to cavemen like, hey, listen, how you feeling or what's going on in your mind? Like I still would have been doing this. So I'm so happy that people are supporting what I'm doing. It's gotten me opportunities that I couldn't even imagine when I first started out. Getting in newspapers because of it, getting on people's podcasts and interviews, speaking at schools. Like it's being very well received. So this will always be my place of home in my home base because the fact of people get to watch the journey, people get to see the stories, people get so much things from it, and I receive a lot from it. So I'm truly grateful for you guys all out there. I hear the good kids getting out, guys. So I'm gonna have to cut it short soon. Uh, but again, this platform um will always be around. And remember that it's never been about replacing therapy. It's an alternative, and it's a place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.